So, welcome to our first session on SAP TM. Just to just to closely clear up, give you an update where we are. For some of you, this is your first session. We just had one demo session prior to this. So, this is
Your voice is breaking.
is it breaking for you or it's breaking for everyone? Can is anyone able to hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, I think it could be a local connection. Please check from your end. Okay. So we had a demo session before this. This is our first session. We still are going to talk about the basics of SAP TM today. But I think for those who have not joined the demo session and this is your first session, I request you to park your questions related to course content, my introduction, your background, course suitable to you or not, duration, all those, questions related to the batch or general query or specific query, you can ask them at the end. I'll reserve some time for these kind of question answers. I request you, let's focus on the topic today. This is our first session. Let's focus on SAP TM. Okay. All right. So I'll make a start. So in today's session, I will be covering some basics about SAP TM. So we did understand, what is transportation management, why companies use it, what are the benefits in to some extent. Now today we will talk about what is SAP TM in SAP, where it stands and what are the options for the customers when they implement SAP TM. And we also go through the different sub areas, sub modules with SAP TM, and also have a quick glance at our system. Okay, so that you know what kind of screens or what kind of scenarios you'll be executing, so that you can at one place we can visualize the execution of SAP TM. Okay, so let's start. So I'll be for now I'll be skipping some slides because we have already spoken about the basics, what is SAP TM, and we also spoken about the history. I'll just quickly go to SAP TM now. So now onwards, we're not going to talk about transportation management in general, but SAP Transportation Management. Okay. So SAP before transportation management for shipping needs had a module called logistics execution. Some of you might have already worked into this. What is logistics execution? It had the delivery processing, outbound shipments, and it had all these kind of documents where we can we can process the deliveries, create shipments. So if at all we need to send a material, let's talk in terms of shipping. We the documents were for the sale order. We used to create outbound delivery, and to represent a truck or a trailer or any kind of a shipment, we used to create a shipping document, a shipment document. That shipment document, in some cases, was also being used to send ASN to customers. We were tracking the different legs of the shipment in the shipment documents. Basically, it was collection or delivery, and it had options of also to push goods movement. So, so the why it's not responding. Okay, so the logistic execution is no more required. Okay, SAP has now said that the shipping of logistic execution will be phased out. Okay, and we will soon have. Okay, let me take my highlighter. Okay, so we outbound shipment will be phased out, and we will still have outbound deliveries, but this shipment in future in 26 year 2026 2027, this will be replaced by transportation management. Okay, so now companies that are using this outbound shipment, the shipping processing in SAP, they have to replace to SAP TM, because in logistic execution this entire shipment piece will in the future it will be taken out and it will not be supported by SAP. So SAP is directing the customers to move towards transportation management. Okay. Now let's so just to tell you at this stage what document we'll have to represent a truck or a trailer, we'll have something called as freight order, which we'll see in the next few slides. Okay. So one thing which projects you'll be working mostly on companies which are already using LE shipping. Okay, that's the submodule called LE shipping. LE had two modules, LE warehouse and LE shipping. So in LE shipping, the shipment phase goes away, the shipment goes away, and we replace with freight orders in TM. Okay, so any companies that they want to use any shipping activity of SAP, they will need transportation management. And this is, just to have one solution for transportation or shipping needs rather than having, LE as well, TM as well. So TM is going to be used for all kinds of shipping activities in SAP. The delivery remains, the outbound delivery is still going to be there. So an inbound delivery is also going to be there. Yeah. When I say outbound shipment is going to be phased out, the same is applicable for inbound shipment also. Okay, we'll have freight orders for inbound processing in future. Okay. So So let me move on to the next slide and just give you an understanding of how this implementations will work for customers. So when customers, okay, so let me, before I go into this slide more detail, let me tell you upfront, we are talking here. Yes, any question? Okay. All right. If you have any questions, is there, many participants 50 plus, I request you to put that in the chat window and I will take some pauses and I'll answer them. Okay. Thank you. So, so before we go into this, admin, can you please check this background noise? Thank you. So here we are going to talk about transportation management. Okay, yes, in background noise. Okay, I hope it's better now. Mm, just give me a minute. I think somebody's unmuted and. Are you all also getting some background noise? Or it's only me?
Yeah, very one for this for me. For me, yeah, did get a sec my echo going on.
Yes, it is coming.
Now it's perfect, I believe.
Okay. Right. Then we continue. Oh yeah, it's gone now. Okay. So another important point that we are going to talk here for our batch and going forward, we are only going to talk about S4 HANA, but we will also touch base, in functionalities where we are going to replace ECC with S4 HANA, but mostly the processing and the S4 HANA, SAP started with the basic shipping. Okay. So now you could see, when we had basic shipping, okay, then LE transportation was still being used. Okay. And in the basic shipping, we had LE transportation. Then SAP TM was added and SAP TM was there. And you can see LE transportation or LE shipping was still there. Now going forward, there will be no LE shipping and there will be only SAP TM. And you also need to understand one important concept here that in S4 HANA, when we will implement SAP TM, we will have several options, okay, with several deployment options. So when a customer goes to SAP TM, they cannot just, okay, start implementation. They have to do an analysis of what their current system is, how their landscape is, what kind of transportation needs they have, and accordingly, a transportation, deployment option will be suggested to them. So what are the deployment options? I do have some slides future, but in next few slide I have explained that. But just to let you know, the deployment options are whether it's an embedded means in one S4 HANA system we have MMPP, all these modules, and in the same module we have TM. So a small or medium scale company would go for that kind of a setup. But let's say a company which is pretty big, and vast and have major transportation needs, and that need is, kind of spread it across several regions. Those kind of companies will not go with this embedded. They may go with a full-fledged decentralized system for S4 for transportation management. Okay, so it will still be in S4 HANA, but you will only have TM in that system, and we have all other modules in the other system. Okay, this kind of decentralized setup is used to have better management of your data. Okay, you can size your own server, and also to remove dependency on ERP downtimes. Okay, so you might have a company which has S4 HANA in Germany, but they have a transportation system for Europe. They may have another transportation system for US region, another for Asia Pacific. So they can have different systems for different region. Okay, for their transportation needs. This is to better manage the data and the downtimes. Okay, so let's say we agreed that we are going to have a basic or a decentralized system. See, solution wise, more or less everything is same. There are some restrictions now, but slowly SAP is removing them. But on a broad level, you do it as embedded or you do it as decentralized, it is the same solution. Okay, so here you can see I'm going to only talk about S4 HANA and TM. So we did speak briefly about history of TM. So TM is in S4 HANA now, but before that TM was part of SCM. Okay, so some companies were already using transportation management in the SCM box. Okay, as a SAP solution in the SCM space. So those companies will still can use the TM in their SCM, or they can upgrade their TM to S4 HANA. Okay. So
Rohan, we cannot see your screen.
yes.
That's your presentation, Rohan.
Okay, let me reshare. I think I lost it. Okay. I hope you can see now.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay, good. So I was explaining, that wherever it says I'm only talking about S4 HANA, but just to be aware that there are companies before S4 HANA that were using transportation management in the SCM box. Those companies can be connected to S4 HANA, or they can also be upgraded and connected to S4 HANA. Okay. So, but those companies were pretty less, more projects and companies you'll see TM in S4 HANA. And I'll also explain you the reason why nowadays TM is being preferred by companies. And in the past, it was not that, uh, you know, looked out by companies, but now it is used. I'll tell you some of the possible reasons for that. Okay. So let's now talk about, let's say we agree on the, let's say we agree that we need transportation management. Yes, we have agreed that this is the product we are going to go with. We agreed that we are going to go with uh, decentralized. Then we will now quickly talk about, the licensing that are required. Okay. So when we go with decentralized, that means you're going to use advanced transportation management. Okay. So in advanced transportation management, you have a separate license. So whenever you are using decentralized, you have to go for advanced transportation management license. Okay. But when you're using embedded means in the same instance you have MMPPSD, those modules, and you also have SAP TM. So it's in the same box. We do have embedded setup. So when I'm going to log into the system quickly after this topic, we will see we have all the modules, and through that same system I'm connecting to SAP TM. Okay. So now when the companies they go for embedded SAP TM, they have two options. One to book this basic shipping and then to go for advanced shipping or advanced transportation. If the companies go for basic shipping, it is taken care in the S4 HANA license itself. You don't have to buy any additional license. And if at all they need some advanced functionalities, they will have to pay additional license and get these advanced functionalities. Okay. So again, as I said, small and medium companies, they are benefited by using embedded TM because they get in the same S4 HANA license, they get all the basic shipping functionalities. So this is, these functionalities are similar to what were covered in LETRA and LE shipping, and they are free for customers. Okay, so they can freely use them, just activate and start using them. But there are innovative topics or advanced functionalities which SAP has built over and above LETRA or LE shipping, and kind of helps business in a greater sense. And there are a lot of better optimizations added there. So for that purpose, we'll have to pay a license. Okay. So depending on the company that you work, you may be working on basic shipping or you may be working on advanced shipping. Now, basic shipping, what it covers, you have, the deliveries, you have freight orders, like I was explaining you, the truck, you do have freight orders. You can only do manual planning here. So if you want to do advanced planning, so in the next few slides, we'll see what are different sub modules in TM. One of them is planning. So when we talk about planning in TM, one is, for example, manual planning means, I have all the shipping requirements and I am going to create freight orders, orders of my carrier that you go and pick so and so shipments. Here, there is no system control. I am just it's not a big company. The shipping department has, 5, 6 requirements a day. There are 2, 3 trucks. He does his manual, stuff and decides, okay, give it to him or that, and then completes the planning. But there will be companies, where there'll be hundreds and thousands of shipping requirements across the globe and different types of, road, rail, and all kind of combinations are possible. There, we will go advance in, kind of automatic planning and try to get understanding of what is the best way based on the strategies and based on the controls that we have put in. Okay, so there it's there. And then also talking about briefly about charges and settlement, that is there. So you can post invoices for your carrier, you can calculate your, you can have the conditions or whatever you say, the condition, like you have a condition in your SD and MM, for the purchase order pricing or sale order pricing. Similarly, you can have conditions or calculations in TM, and you can calculate the freight charges and you can bill that to your customers as well. So charges and settlement side, everything is there. So what else is there? Just advanced planning is one. I've explained you. Then we spoke about the two industries. One is the shipping, where Mm, the companies are shipping their. Hello. Yes. Correct. So one is shipping, where the companies are shipping their produced goods, and other is the freight forwarder company.
Ron, can you repeat the last two sentences? We missed one or two sentences.
Okay.
Suddenly,
It was
we
regarding.
audio went for.
Okay. Was it regarding charge calculation, I think? Or okay, I'll just talk about charge calculation, then I'll say
You were
mention about.
you were talking about something about two industries, right?
Oh,
Separate.
okay. So, so then mostly there are two industries, two type of transportation. And when we do config and setup, we do it for two types of industry. One is the shipping industry, that is that is manufacturing goods and telling the carriers go ship here and there. Another side, TM can also be used by freight forwarder companies like DHL, FedEx, who are getting transportation needs from external customers, and then they are doing planning and using their own fleets or subcontracted fleets and shipping the goods. So if you're a company that is into freight forwarding, like a DHL or FedEx or this kind of company, like we have Gati commonly in India, and there are so many similar small or medium scale companies, then you will have to use this advanced transportation. Okay. Then, I did speak about planning. You have a lot of, at CDS means analytics, which you get here. You can work with deliveries in both the system. Where another important thing is, you can plan early. So, for example, for a shipment or a shipping, yes,
Can you give me some example for manual or rule-based
plan, manual or rule based plan. See, manual or rule based plannings are a basic planning. Manual, as we all can, you know, assume it quite well. Manual means you have all your shipping requirements. There is a planning screen, a cockpit, where you get all the demands of how many inbound shipments you have to consider, how many outbound shipments you have to plan. So, what is the outcome of planning basically? So, it's a wide topic. I just try to answer it in 3 sentences. So, planning means you have shipping requirements that there are 3 deliveries going to 3 different customers. Now we need to assign them to a carrier and or give an order to the carrier. Hey, go and pick those deliveries and deliver to my customer. Now, whether those 3 deliveries I give it, whether can just one truck is enough, or I need 3 trucks, or whether one carrier is good enough, or I need 3 carriers, or we I have to get their price and analyze. Okay, so in manual you have all your decision making outside the system. You just select and say, okay, this truck by this in these 3 goes in one truck, or these 2 goes in one truck. System there is no system intervention here. And when we say rule based, there are some rules, which we want system to take care. For example, I don't want, a sulfur dioxide to be shipped with any other, material. It should be always shipped independently. Okay. So if you have when shipping, you have some combination of material that should not be shipped. So if you have a rule that always when I'm sending fabricated parts, the height of the truck should be so much. So you make some rules in the system, and those are considered when you do manual planning. You get errors in that case. Okay. So I hope I answered your question, but I would still request please put it in the chat window. Let's go with the flow. I will definitely take pauses and I'll answer them. Okay. Let me complete this slide first. Okay. Then when we talk about the advanced planning, another important thing about advanced transportation is that in advanced transportation we can plan early. So in basic transportation, we will send deliveries to TM and say, go and plan it. Okay, so we are mostly working at delivery level. But when we come to advanced transportation, we are not only sending the deliveries, but we can also send the purchase order or sale orders. So the moment you got an order from your customer, you can send that order to the you can send the order to transportation management, and you can say, okay, hey carrier, this is what sorry this hey TM, this is the transportation need, and you start planning now onwards. So there are such companies, especially in international shipments, your planning starts 6 months, 8 months in advance, because you have to book a ship or you have to book an air. So you have to start very early. Waiting for delivery is pretty late. Okay. So we will see some scenarios also where we are not doing the planning, or we're not doing transportation activities based on deliveries. We are doing based on the orders. Okay. Then dispute management, as we know that there can be disputes. Carrier would say, I don't I have so much extra for waiting at your premises. I'm going to charge you some more for that. Sometimes we also take some loading equipment from the carrier, and there are sometimes they have built it, but we did not use it, or there are several disputes that can happen. We get a dedicated dispute management you know, what I can say, functionality, which allows us to, accept or reject, or, and it's also integrated with finance where we can, allow over, billing or under billing by the, or I would say invoicing, under and over invoicing by the carriers. Okay. And then I did speak about, carrier portals. For that also we need to use advanced TM. Okay. So mostly in your projects, you will see advanced TM, but there are companies which are already using SCLE, TRA, and just they don't want this fancy stuffs. The fancy stuff, small and medium scale companies, they will first evaluate whether all their transportation needs are fulfilled with basic. If not, they will go for advance. So such analysis is done at the start of your project. First, what type of deployment? Obviously, S4 HANA is assumed. About projects are moving to S4 HANA, and then obviously what are you replacing? What is your landscape? What shipping needs? Accordingly, a particular shipping basic or advanced TM and licensing needs are being addressed. Okay. So I will before I yeah. So here, these are some scenarios where we have discussed the deployment options, whether it is how do you. So I did explain, we have embedded TM where everything in S4 HANA. We also have a side by side where it is decentralized. S4 HANA and TM are in two different instances of S4 HANA. We have ERP in S4 HANA, and we have TM as a business suite stack. That means the SCM based one, which I spoke about. And then we have, ERP with TM. This is the old first time when TM was launched. So some companies are moving in this direction. Okay. And um, future maybe is even the major companies can go for embedded, but now mostly all companies are using decentralized or better managing their transportation needs. Okay. So these are the four deployment options we discuss. And then, whenever it is decentralized, we do have to send data, and we will talk about this in our master data session. So if it is decentralized, how we send data, we use SIF, IDOCS, or you can say DRF functionalities to send data from ERP to TM when it is decentralized. Okay, so when decentralized, we said, more or less the process execution is same, but there is an additional add-on activity which it gets added, that is the master data distribution. So let's say we are in scenario 3 where we have our ERP is S4 and TM is also in S4, but TM will expect ERP to tell all the products that are being used, all the business partners that we have to connect with, because when we have a carrier in a freight order, that carrier should be created as a business partner. So ERP will create that, will be the master system ideally. We can also create business partners directly in TM. That's also possible. And then we also get plants, shipping points. All those are created as location in ERP and sent to TM. Okay. So TM, when we use decentralized, one difference is there, that we need to distribute the master data. Okay. All right. So I'll just quickly take some of the questions and sorry to interrupt. What is DRF? DRF, Data Replication Framework. It's a new concept of sending the data through web services from ERP to S4 HANA decentralized systems.